trying to connect. Okay, good morning. Continuing with the Maimer Uchtavtam Al Mezuzos B'Yisecho. This Maimer was said in 1969. It's connected with a Maimer that was said 100 years before by the Rabbi Menashe, the fourth Lubavitcher Rebbe. And we said two interesting things about mezuzos. Right, two interesting explanations about mezuzos. Number one is mezuzah has zoi and ze in it, which referencing to us. Zu yotzarti l'sachik us and Hashem. So by placing mezuzah on the door, you create a connection between us and Hashem. Number two is the explanation of Tikkun Zohar, where it says that you have, if you take out the word zaz from the mezuzah, zayin, you have mavis. So zaz mavis, by placing mezuzah on your door, you are pushing away death. We'll go to the next thing. It says v'yesh lo yisif. We need to add the ina loshen ze, the expression ze, meir al inyan ariya. When we say the word ze, it always denotes seeing, visualizing something, being able to see it. K'may v'sinu zal kol echad v'echad mar b'tzboy v'emer ze keilu v'anveu. V'chenu v'sinu zal shlos lo kach mar b'tzboy. It says we see in the time of the splitting of the sea, every person was able to say, "Here is God. Let me adorn Him. Zekeli vanveu. I'll beautify Him." Till this way, we're using this expression for hidul mitzvah, for beautifying a mitzvah. We say Zekeli vanveu, to beautify a mitzvah. So what do we see from it? The Zeh is an expression of revelation. Another point, it says, in the time of Mashiach, we'll have the same concept that we're able to say Zeh. We'll see it in a revealed way. All the prophets were prophesying on the word koi, which represented more of a vague, somewhat lacking clarity. When it comes to Moshe Rabbeinu, his prophecy was with the word zeh, which represented clarity. Why? It says if Moshe Rabbeinu saw the essence. It's called Riyas HaMaus. You have always the level of seeing the Metzius, the external aspect of it, and then it's something called Riyas HaMaus, seeing the essence of things, seeing the almost like seeing the inside of things. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu experienced. So Riyas HaMaus, Valpi, go to the Zayin. It says when it comes to Moshe Rabbeinu, at the time of when he asked Hashem that he wanted to see his essence, he told Hashem, what was the expression? Right? He says, Hashem, I want to see your honor. So Hashem answered them, you can see the back, but you can't see the essence. You can't see the panim. You meant I want to see the essence. Hashem said, no, you got to see the back. Why? Because a person cannot see me and stay alive. And that we will mention the whole story with the king Menashe that killed his grandfather by saying you're contradicting you're lying because you said Boere Savaye, Yeshiva Kiserom, you said you seeing Avaya sitting on his heavenly throne, and it says clearly Velo Irani Adam V'chai, so how are you able to see? So therefore he came into either a conclusion that he was lying, or he needed it as excuse to kill his own grandfather. So the rabbis explain it that really he did see it, and it doesn't contradict the pasuk that no one can see me and stay alive, because Moshe Rabbeinu saw Hashem with Spaklaya Amir, with clarity. On the other prophets, Yeshaya, for example, he saw Hashem, but it wasn't a Spaklaya Amir. It wasn't as clear as by Moshe Rabbeinu. So, what do we learn so far? That every time you see the word Zeh, it represents revelation. When you see the word Koi, it represents also prophecy, but it's not as revealed. And even by Moshe Rabbeinu, there are certain times you can see my back, you can't see the front, you can't see the inner, the inside. Remove what about levels that are above Achoyra, meaning that are higher levels? Moshe Rabbeinu was able to understand them, but not to see them. By him, it was Koi. So Moshe Rabbeinu himself had Koi, had levels of things are not per se 100% clear, which we call him in the Maimon, we call him Koi. Koi Omar Hashem. And we see it even if you look at the instruction Moshe Rabbeinu is getting. Many times, if Hashem would, if you would think to yourself, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu to take your stick and speak to the rock. Hashem could have said to him, if it's there, if it's very clear, Hashem says, listen, do not hit the rock, just speak to it, and maybe things would be different. But he said, take your stick and speak to the rock. Why do I need the stick if I need to speak to the rock? Yeah. So certain things you see that it was vague, even though you can say it's somewhat. And there was a time before that Hashem told him to hit the stick with it. Yeah. So the point is that even by Moshe, where it says Veroisa Sachorai, you see my back, not the front. It means that Moshe Rabbeinu stopped right there. He still was able to understand higher levels. It's just it was in the level of Koi. It doesn't have that clarity like Zeh. And it says you also see with Moshe Rabbeinu, there's a few prophecies that he did say Koi. He didn't say Zeh. Okay, Zeh that Hashem instructed me, this is what we should do. Rather, he uses the expression Koi. Meaning that it was something added that Moshe had also prophesied with the expression Zeh. Shemizeh mashma shegam Moshe nisna b'Koi. When it comes to levels that are Mailam, higher than a Chayra, so he prophesied with Koi, or he was able to perceive them and grasp them only through Koi. Veine zoi ze misporom kei. Interesting. We said before that mezuzah has zu and or zoi and ze, zayin vav and zayin hey. If you put them both together, zayin is 7 and vav is 6, so that makes it 13, and ze is 7 and 5, so it's 12. 13 and 12 makes it 25. So it tells you vein zoi and ze Misporom 25. Sheshach lebchinas koi. What is 25? 25 is koi. Chaf and hey is koi. This is it's written in the book of Shmuel. We are familiar with a statement from the song of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. V'amartem kol lechai. So Shirish Hashono ubechinas zeh. When it comes to Rosh Hashanah, the day of creation for human, the human being were created on the 1st of Tishrei, and the world was created in Chaf Hei.
Right.
No, Koi. Chaf Hei is Koi.
Right.
So 25th of Elul is Koi, and Rosh Hashanah is Zeh. Why? Because it says Zayim Tchilas Ma'asecha. Today is the beginning of your doings, your action. Shemizeh, move on. Shebechinas Koi Shechnas Par Chafei. We see that Koi is associated with Chafei, besides the fact that the gematria of Koi is 25. Chafei Yomim, 25 days. Valder is a Chafei Shonim, and 25 years. It says also we find in the Torah the connection between 40 years in the desert to the corresponding to the 40 days of spying the land. This is also connected with Chaf Menachemav, which is the day of passing of the Rebbe's father, Rabbi Yitzchok ben Zelda Rochel, I believe. So it says, and this, so the time of the more or less the time that the Maimah was said, this Maimah was said on 18th, I believe, of Av, but it has some reference to the Rebbe's father, because the Rebbe is using gematrias over here, right? Zoe and Zeh, 25. So his father was.
I have a safer translated.
So. ומזה מובן שגם מספר כ"ה, מספר שתי זה and Zoe is together 25. Kosher b'chinas kol. It's connected with the fact. It's connected with mezuzah. And it adds a tone, it had some advantage to the mezuzah. Through the message of the mezuzah. What is the message of the mezuzah? That we are servants to Hashem. But the mezuzah tells us that we need to serve Hashem with accepting the yoke, nullifying our existence before Hashem. So even levels that we can't have zeh because we are unable to see it, meaning it's too much for a human being to see. So zeh is outside of is out of the picture. Rather, we can only see it in Koi. Like Shmiya, hearing is associated with Koi, and seeing is associated with Zeh. When it comes to Shmiya in Avodas Hashem, hearing, accepting the yoke, it creates something nimshoches gam hen bepnimius. Then the even levels that are usually captured in seeing, we'll be able to capture them through hearing. Why we asked the question, since it was mentioned also in Parshas Vayischanan, the commandment on mezuzah, why is it specifically discussed in Parshas Eikev? is because this parsha is emphasizing the hearing, shmiya. Ekev tishmun. Tishmun, to listen. Ki ikar avodah kabbalah seil, tishmun b'derech she'ikutum Mashiach. When is the primary mode of kabbalah seil, accepting the yoke, is this generation, the generation of ikveta de Mashiach, the time right before Mashiach, davka. Specifically this time, davka ekev. Sheb'doros eilu, yeshno koyach ha-mesilas nefesh. In these generations, is the power of Mesilas Nefesh. Tachlis ha-bitul b'yesa, the highest level of bitul. V'avodah zo magas lemala yesa me'avodah sheb'doros harishonim. And this avodah Mesilas Nefesh can touch elikus, godliness, can arouse godliness, lemala yesa me'avodah sheb'doros harishonim, even more than the work that was done in earlier generations. Although it is written in the Gemara in Shabbos Kuf Yud Beis 112, it says, it's a very interesting statement there in the Gemara. The Gemara speaks about Yeridas Hadoros. Yeridas Hadoros means almost the deterioration or somewhat degrading of the generations. The Gemara says like this: Im rishonim b'nei malochim, if the first ones were sons of angels, the early generations were like angels, then we are humans. We are like people. We degraded to the level of anoshim. And if the first one were humans, what are we? So he says, Anu kachamayrim, we're like donkeys. And he says, and if we are like donkeys, we are not like the donkeys of Chanina ben Deisa and Rabbi Pinchas ben Yoel. Chanina ben Deisa's donkey would not desecrate the Shabbos, and Pinchas ben Yoel donkey would not eat food that is untithed. You didn't give Meiser or Truma, wouldn't touch it. It wouldn't take more than if you would put less money than like you would rent you the donkey, and at the end of the day you would put your money on the donkey, and the donkey would bring it back to the owner. If you would put less, he wouldn't move. If you put more, he wouldn't move. You had to put the exact amount of money, and the donkey would move.
Some donkey.
Yeah. So the point is, it tells if the earlier generations were like humans, we are like donkeys, but not the donkeys of Pinchas ben Yair, because that donkey was a special donkey. Specifically in the later generations, the emphasis on Mesilas Nefesh. Of what? Of Shmiya, of listening. So much so, the Mesilas Nefesh is even greater than the prophecy of Moshe. She is not bebezeh. That he prophesies with the word zeh. Kedo Pirush HaKosuv says, "Vayish Moshe Anu Meid Mikol Adam Ashap Nadam." Moshe Rabbeinu was the humblest man. Sheikar Anova Yisrael Avodah Mesilas Nefesh. The main humility of Mesilas Nefesh, you need humility. Kabbalah says, accepting the yoke, you need humility. It says, Vayish Moshe Anav Meid, Moshe was the humblest man. Mikol Adam Ashap Nadam, more than any other man. Sheikar Anova Yisrael Avodah Mesilas Nefesh. The primary Anova was of Moshe Rabbeinu was in regards to Mesilas Nefesh, self-sacrifice, Shebedoro Deikvatam Shicha, for the generation, the last generation to exile. Time right before Mashiach. The less ois vav v'zeu Uchtavtam Al Mezuzos v'yisecho v'shorecho, that we say in the Shema, the inyan mezuzah or bitul. Concept of mezuzah is nullification. Shebebechinas shmiya. heeding, right? Heeding, the listening, heeding. Yeah. Primary is shmir, is doing what we need to do with a Kabbalah, so with accepting the yoke. This would affect everything that is in your house, everything that is outside of your house, your business. It would ultimately affect the world. The world is also called bais. That all be nullified to Hashem. There's an asa shmira, and then that provides the shmira, the guarding. But where's the guarding coming from? The guarding coming directly from Anochi, from the essence of godliness. Because it all goes back to the ear that listened on Har Sinai. Chaldei, what did we heard? We heard on Har Sinai. On Har Sinai, we heard Anochi directly, the essence of God. Bitul of Shmiya, through the nullification of listening, hearing, and applying it. We're able to capture, to hold on to Anochi, to the essence of godliness. There's a problem. Now we impact that the whole world becomes a dwelling place for Hashem, for the indwelling of the divine presence. This will be revealed in Tam Mashiach. At that time, the third Beis Hamikdash will be revealed. All of Nemar, it says about the third Beis Hamikdash in the prophecy of Haggai, that the last Acharon, which the last Beis Hamikdash will be even greater than the first one. We learned that it will be greater, the first and the second, because each one had its own advantages and its own superiorities, but the third Beis Hamikdash will be greater than both. The main thing is speaking about the third Beis Hamikdash, the third temple, with the true and complete redemption through the righteous Mashiach. As the Rambam is paskin, that the Beis Hamikdash will be built in its place. Hashem will gather all the Jews around the world, even Nidchi Yisrael, those who are far away, not just physically but spiritually. Will bring us with pride erected to our Bekoim Skufa, which means that you walk proudly back to our land. Baruch to you.